Hey, good evening. This is Dale Callahan. We're here to cover our weekly episode with Ask Dr. Callahan. So being a company that provides homeschool products, we provide basically high school, college prep products for that are mostly focused around mathematics. But some of the issues that we deal with as we talk to customers, we talk to parents all the time, is how do you make decisions for your kids? How do you help them make the decisions in terms of what you're going to do for high school, what courses you cover? You know, we're so busy what courses do you take? What extracurricular activities are you going to do? What are you going to do in college? That sometimes we miss thinking about the big picture, and that's really what happens after high school, or maybe I should say even more importantly, what happens after college. Because it doesn't matter what happens after high school. For most people, they're looking at what the long-term projection is. Look, the reason to be educated is to be able to work and to live in a society and be a contributor to society. And we've mistaken that a lot of times. I think the reason to be educated is to go to college. But that's just, maybe that's just a part of it. We only go to college if there's a path for that. So I'm talking about some stuff that we do in our career and college planning course, and I'll put a link to that here. But look, I'm a university faculty member, so I work with all kinds of people in the School of Engineering. We see all kinds of students come in that don't really know what they want. Sometimes they're underprepared on things, but more often than not, we find people that don't know what they're after. We know, we can read the paper, we can look around, and we can talk to friends that there's people out there that have gone to college. Some have finished degrees, not everybody, and they're in debt often, but they still don't know what they want. They still don't know what they're doing. They still haven't figured it out, if you will. They're still looking around, but they've spent thousands and thousands of dollars. So a typical college education costing $60,000 up to $120,000. Even at your public universities, or your big public universities anyway. I mean, you can do cheaper, but still, we're just talking about in the margins. We're still talking about buying part of a home, buying an automobile, those kind of things are out there. So that's how much we're investing. Will it pay off? That's what you've got to think about. So in our situation right now is we're guiding our kids to figure out what comes next. And that's really the right question, is what comes after we finish educating in the formal sense. We never finish educating, but we're always learning. But what are they driving towards? So one of the things that we have always been trying to help the kids get an anchoring on what it is that they're after. So the number one thing that we find is ownership. Whatever your kids do, whatever you do, you've got to own it. One of the things we look at when we do a lot of company startups, when we look at company startups, the first thing we're looking for is who's the champion? Who owns it? Who's the person that's going to drive this and make it happen? Because it's not a bunch of people. It's that one core person. Movements tend to happen around core people, champions, that they champion ideas. We look back in even the founding of our nation, there were core champions, the people who champion the ideas. Your kids have got to be a champion for their own career, for their own path. You can't do that for them. You can be a champion up to a point, but you can't hand it off. Just like the reason we cannot start a company and say, okay, I'm the champion and now I'm going to give this to somebody else, unless that person wants to take on and be that champion. They have to be the champion or the owner of their path. They have to know where they're going. They have to have a burning desire to get there. We oftentimes call that passion, right? What's the passion that's driving me there? They need to care about what they do. Now, fortunately, many kids these days, they kind of get it and they're watching what's going on and they get some access to what's going on in careers and see the opportunities. But many don't. In other words, they can see what an accountant does all day. They can see what a doctor does. They can see what an engineer does. They can see what a teacher does. They can see what a truck driver does. And we have the ability, just by communicating even on social media and having friends and being such a mobile society, we can see what other people do for a living and how that works. But unfortunately, sometimes we're a little too caught up in the video games. Sometimes we're a little too caught up in television. Sometimes we're a little too caught up in the running back and forth to baseball, soccer, football games, doing all the busyness that we don't stop and think, where is this heading? What's the end goal? What am I trying to achieve? So for most of our kids, we want them to be able to earn a living, right? You want them to be able to earn a living. And the way you earn a living is you serve other people. So who do they want to serve? Who are those people they want to serve, and how do they want to serve them? You know, as we get up and we go to a job and we do work, that's all we are doing is we're serving other people. How do we want to serve them? Who do we like serving? I mean, we've probably all had that job before where we could not stand the people we worked with. We could not stand the people we were serving. We were in the wrong place. It wasn't that was people were bad or we're bad. It's just it's a bad fit. I know I've had those kind of jobs. Our kids are more than likely to have those kind of jobs unless they've got some direction. But just think about our society and the way we operate right now it's not about homeschooling or public schooling or private schooling. What we do is we start out and we take kids from K through 12 and we move them through this system, and it's like cattle moving, right? It doesn't really matter if they've learned anything or not. They do some bare minimum and they move them to the next grade. It's kind of like cattle moving from one pasture to another, and then you've graduated and you put on a diploma and you get this piece of paper and you've succeeded. But, have you really done anything? Not, you've followed a bunch of rules, did a bunch of busy work. And then you get into college and really, a lot of that can be the same thing. It's just repeated. There's a little more flexibility, a little other things you can do, more trouble you can get into. But clearly it's still following a set of rules. But rarely do you stop and think, what is it I really want to do? Who do I really want to serve? If I look back, and I know this for sure because this is the kind of professional I work with, people who have been out of school, a couple of years, 20 years, 30 years, and they'll tell me nobody's ever really asked me what I really wanted to do. Maybe a high school counselor did for a moment, but the minute I said, I kind of like math, they stuck me into a box and said, well, you're either an engineer, you're a scientist, you're a math teacher. And they quickly put me in the box that they was already preformed for them by those big fat guides of career guides. And we didn't really explore what we were trying to do. So what you need to do, what I think we all want to do, and I will be dogmatic in the sense, I think what you need to do with your kids, if you want them to be successful, do you want them to be successful because they have a nice high-paying job that they hate? Do you want them to be successful because they have a nice high-paying job that they hate? They live in a big neighborhood, that they're fully in debt, that they can't see, that they're running 90 to nothing and they're not really living life. Is that what we really want for our kids, that they're just going 900 miles an hour and they have this, like most Americans, this may surprise you, but most Americans hate their job statistically. And it's been taken in all kinds of surveys and all kinds of ways. Most Americans hate their job. Is that what you're looking for? Is that what you want in the path to success for our kids? That we get up, we put them through a college plan, they succeed, they look awesome, we can be proud of them, we can talk about them on Facebook, we can talk about how great they're doing and what grades they have, and now they got a great job, they got a great title, they sound really cool, but they feel empty. They feel empty. I cannot tell you how many times I have coached people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year who will tell me, I'm just empty inside. I'm a glorified clerk. Can you imagine somebody making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year say, I'm just a glorified clerk and I feel empty? All that work I did to get me to this one place, I feel like, what was the point? Now, they're not saying that in the public. They're not saying that in the boardroom. They're not saying that to their boss. They're not even saying that to their family, but that's how they feel. Because when we get down inside and we start talking about it, there's that emptiness in the job that we're doing. It's not because the jobs are terrible. It's not because the companies are evil. It's not because they feel like it's not because they're bad or they're incompetent or they're lazy. No, it's not any of that. It's that they're in the wrong spot. I know I felt that same feeling, that you're just in the wrong spot. You're living the wrong life, and you're sitting there thinking, why can I not succeed? Or even if you are succeeding, why do I feel empty here? Why does this feel like a big loss? So I see this all the time right now. Even people that will watch this video, you will feel that. I know that. This is, again, statistically, I just know that's the truth. People feel, in this world where we got all kinds of opportunities, especially living in the United States, but for most in any part of the industrial world, you got so many opportunities of what you want to do, and yet we get trapped. We get, this very focused area, and we become trapped. I get a medical doctor degree, and suddenly I'm trapped. I can't get out. I can't tell you the number of times medical doctors have told me they feel trapped. That's kind of scary, right? That they feel trapped. Lawyers who feel trapped, engineers who feel trapped, executives who feel trapped. I don't care what they are. They feel trapped. They have these great paying jobs. They have all the trappings of success, and they're buying more cars and more houses and stuff, but they feel trapped. Now, that's not me talking. You can go out there and read. There's multiple books been written, multiple studies have been done on this. So in the freest country in the world, we imprison ourselves voluntarily. We imprison ourselves with work we don't really like doing, and then with debt that helps keep those chains locked tight on us. So what we want to do, and so I'm telling you, I'm looking from the other side, because who I'm working with are those people who are already like us, that have been out there all those years. And that's who I spend most of my time working with, trying to help them get untrapped, to break the shackles, to find new opportunities, to increase their income. How do they increase their income? Because oddly enough, when you find things you love, your income actually goes up. How do we help them do that? But I can tell you that happens on the other side. I can get a classroom full of 40 executives or whatever they are, anywhere from software developers to programmers to executives to project managers. I will know that 60% of them feel trapped. And it will take a little while for them to admit it. And then probably there's only 10% of them will say, I love what I do. There's always about 10% that love what they do. They're passionate about it. They're driven. They're top performers because they love it. But there's the 60% who feel trapped. And there's those people in the middle like, well, it's okay. And the one thing I've learned when people say, I don't mind my job, what they're really saying under their breath is, I hate my job. Please get me out of here. That's a sad state maybe of America, but we can look around in the corporations that we work with and the people we deal with customer service with, and you know when you deal with one of these people, right? Because you can tell the person who's on fire, and you want to work with them, you want to give them money, you want them to serve you, but all the rest of them, and that we deal with them all the time, they're empty. They're empty, and they're not really great at providing a service. Why do I say all this about these people I work with that are professionals? Is because that's where your kids are heading, right? That is exactly where your kids are heading. So you want them right now, while they are in high school or where it is before, to begin to own it. You want to have them to have the passion, and they have to own it. We call them helicopter parents. I don't know if that's a bad or good term, but we see them at the university where the parents are walking in the university, making their decisions for them. I mean, I'm going to say that the university is an insane place, a very dangerous place, especially for people who are Christians. But they're making other decisions. They're making career decisions for them. Your son or daughter, they've got to own it. They've got to have that passion and drive to want to do what they're doing. Because look, while there's all these people out there that are suffering, that are suffering in their corporate, we call it a corporate lobotomy. They've kind of become numb. That there's a whole lot of other people doing totally bizarre, interesting things. I met a guy the other day who does lettering. Now, this may sound silly. Lettering, he draws letters and he writes these neat little letters that you would put on cups and these sayings and this, not fancy graphics, but just lettering, these nice little quotes and put them on T-shirts or cups, and so he was the lettering guy. He was passionate about lettering. And he was talking about he started making a living in lettering. He built something, and what was it? It was like 6 days. He made $100,000 on it. So here's somebody, and he even made the comment. He says, if you think you can't make a living doing what you love, look at me. I'm making a living doing lettering. And it's because that's how this world works. Is there's so much money out there. Your kids can find opportunities doing what they love. Now, I know as parents, we're like, why are you sitting there playing video games? Why are you sitting there doing this? Our kids love to, now this is insane. Our kids love to watch YouTubers that play video games. So it used to be our kids played video games, and now our kids are watching people play video games. And you may think this is crazy, but there's people making a living turning on their computer, playing video games, and talking during the video games. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, anything. They're just talking, they're being hilarious, they're being comical, and people are watching it. I mean, hundreds of thousands, or in this one girl's case, millions of YouTube subscribers watching her play video games. She's making a living playing video games, and not for some large company. Other people are watching her play video games. There's just endless possibilities. So what you want to do is you want to help your kids to start right now. You want to help them wherever they are to start to fertilize and to get those ideas that they love doing and to start exploring them. How can they start now? Education is part of your answer, but you got to be careful what we say when we mean education. Is college a great path? Maybe. If they decide they want to be an engineer, if they decide they want to be a neurosurgeon, if they decide they want to be a CPA, if they just, there's all kinds of things that you need that formal education for. But you need to start with where their passion takes them, not with what the college tells us. Because look, at the university, we're going to do our best to get them in the right spot. But we can't do that if they're just showing up to check a box. They're not going to find this spot for them is not going to be any better than anybody else. So education is the answer for them, because if they want to go in a different path, they need a different education. What you need to do is help them right now, is to help them explore and help them find the education that fits them. So again, your kids have got to own it. Your kids need to be in control of that career they're going after from early on. And you can help foster that ownership. So in our career and college planning course, that's part of what we're trying to do. So however you do that, this course walks them through finding their passion and helping them identify how to make a living doing it and what the right path of education is. But however you do that, you need to help them to do that to succeed. It makes your life, and this is from the selfish point of view, it's going to make your life a lot easier, helping them get to the right spot sooner. So Cassidy will be back with you. Cassidy will be back on Thursday, and I think she will join you in the afternoon. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Thanks a lot.